conspiracy bigger than all of us. But you don't have to worry. I'm the one in control.
Hello, I'm Zara. Welcome to the studio this evening. Well, I make a mess of things. So tonight I am doing something completely different. Actually, I don't think you've seen me do this on stream. You've seen me do something similar on stream before. And what I did on stream before... cameras. Okay, excuse me. I've just finished my evening meal and I keep wanting to clear my throat. You've seen me do the smaller versions of this. Well, this is a bigger version. So, this is a rug. Making a rug. Something different. So I've made a start just to see how things are going. But we've made a start with a rug. So essentially, that's what it will look like when as we're doing it. Because no hiccups. And this is how we start. So I've just started just to give myself a check as to how things were going. Not a great start, but not a bad start. And it'll be a little bit before I get into the right sort of rhythm, but we'll get there. So essentially I just keep stabbing this needle through this canvas, hoping I don't hit my fingers, because that's kind of the key thing. This would be better if it was on a frame. It would be a heck of a lot easier, and it would actually be quite a bit faster. But I don't happen to have a spare frame, nor do I happen to have one that's this big, even if I did have a spare frame. None of my frames are this sized enough to do this. They're not wide enough. So this is, I'm just using up some wool. This is going to be just a geometric pattern. Sort of triangle, sort of. Now you can do this in any direction you like, it doesn't matter. This is variegated or coloured wool, so I have no idea what the colours will look like. When we come to do the triangular bits, we'll be using some solid colours rather than this, but just thought we'd start with this. Now this to some extent would be best done over the edge of the desk, but hold it reasonably reasonably tight in order to get the needle to go through it properly, but not so tight that, well, I don't need to hold it so tight, otherwise I'll stretch the canvas, and I'm not doing a painting, so I don't need to stretch the canvas. And this needle is sharp, so I am hoping I don't hit my fingers. I don't really want to do that. So I am watching where I'm doing it, partly because I want to space these reasonably evenly. It's not important that they are a particular distance or anything, I just need to do enough to produce a fairly thick level on the other side. Now that'll look a bit better. As I do more, that sort of tightens up a bit, but I need to get them fairly close together. Hello Wolfie, you're bored. Hopefully with not with what you're seeing. Good evening, welcome this evening, how are you? I mean, this might get boring to watch, I guess, if you're bored, but maybe the chances of me jabbing myself with it are exciting enough. This is kind of, because I'm right-handed and how I need to hold this, I ought to have sort of arranged this slightly differently so I could actually sort of see chat. At the moment it's kind of a little bit awkward to see. Never mind, just keep checking. Philosophical questions. You mean I ought to be regretting asking about now? I would have thought the more philosophical question would be what are you, but anyway. Or even who are you? That would be even more philosophical, but anyway. Oops, I just missed myself then. Oh, the camera's shaking, isn't it? I can see it out of the corner of my eye. Oh dear. Oh well, maybe what I can do if it gets too bad is I will put the desk down and sit down. Then I can mount the camera on the other desk. My glasses are clean and see what I'm doing. Really should use a cloth for that, but never mind. Hey! Echo. Eco. Which is interesting. I guess that's what it's meant to be. That used to be. I'm sure that used to be a game for one of the consoles. A good few years ago now. Japanese style. Sort of, a drawing type, two-dimensional-ish sort of style. I've got that somewhere, but. Obviously this is a new one. Minecraft and ecology. I'm just taking a look at... That's the needle, by the way. It's sharp! Yes, it does look like a hypodermic needle. I'm trying to remember what my cousin used to call that. Hypodermic noodle. Yeah, something like that. Hypodermic needle. Hyper noodle. Hypodermic noodle. Something like that. I can't remember now. I know I've said that before. It's the right way around. So I take it you've been playing the game. In theory, this needle should slide between the threads of the canvas, but occasionally you can hear it breaking them, which isn't necessarily a good thing. And I'm guessing by the time I've finished this thing, I'm going to wish I had put some sort of frame together for this, but I can feel myself narrowly missing my fingers because I'm having to support the material on both sides. You're going to buy it? Oh, okay. I might have a look, see what it's about, but I shall look forward to your opinion on it once you've played it for a while. One of the things I've got to do with this is always make sure that I don't pull the thread tight. Because if I do, it pulls the loops out from the other side. So I've got a nice large ball of wool, which probably, I was about to say probably won't last very long, but it'll probably last longer than I'm expecting. I don't actually know how much wool this is going to take, so I don't actually know if I've got enough. So I'm living dangerously. I'm going to try doing this slightly differently. I missed. Or hit, depending on your point of view. Experience with this tells me I'm always better working from me away from me, which is why I've just come this far down, a little bit far down, just to fill in this block, and then we'll see about working. There we go, I knew that was happening. That's happening because I had the thread trapped underneath my arm. So, I don't know if you tried watching the stream last night, Wolfie. Sorry I was unable to. We were out until later than expected. On the way back there was a road closed and we were just sat there for ages and couldn't go anywhere. So I don't think we got back until something like about 8:15, and then needed to have something to eat, and again it just wasn't worth attempting to stream at that time, because by the time I got set up it would have been time to pack up. Hopefully you've had a good weekend. For me, I'm back at work tomorrow. So this is my last day of holiday. At least for a while. I think I've got a little bit more in about a month's time, but ow! Missed! I said this was sharp. So you'll have to excuse the odd exclamation like that if it happens. Yes, so I guess if you're wearing headphones, might be best to just watch the volume on them. I would say I'd try and give you a warning, but that's kind of just not likely to happen. At least this one isn't quite as bad as the when I'm doing it with a smaller thread. I'm using a much smaller needle, and that is proportionally so much more sharp than this. But luckily, most of the time I can use a hoop with the smaller needles. Excuse me, it is a little warm here in the studio tonight for some reason that I do not know. Look on when you look on the front, you can't really see. There's a gap. When you look on the back, you can see there's a whole piece I haven't done yet. Well, you can do this totally randomly, but it does pay to try and keep in lines. It's a lot easier to get to keep an even texture. When you're doing this, you could kind of do with having some sort of unwinder or a friend to do it for you, just so you don't get any tension on the thread. Because if you do, it doesn't form the loops properly. Now then, I'm not going to bother coming back. In fact, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to start further down this rug. I have a pair of scissors over here. Not my needlework scissors, but they should do. Let me cut that tail off just because it's annoying. Put them there, then I don't lose them. So that's kind of the start of the rug. What I'll eventually do is hem this and then fold it over to form the edge. But I'm going to start further down because working away from myself is actually better, which I've forgotten about until I just started doing it now. So I'm going to turn this all around. And try and find some way of working with this. While still staying on camera. You need a little bit of tension on the canvas. Don't really want to be pulling it too tight, but just enough. If you pull it too tight, it makes it hard for the needle to go through, and it distorts the canvas. Oh, let's go back the other way. Right. What I really ought to have with this is some kind of floor stand. I could just wrap the top and bottom of the canvas around, and then I could work across that. It'd be a lot quicker as well. That isn't really heavy enough. When you're doing this, it is important that you make sure you push the needle all the way through, so that you actually get the loops the same size every time. Unless of course you're attempting to get a sculptured carpet, which of course is something you could do, sculptured rug I guess rather than carpet. Ooh. That's not working very well for what I was hoping it would do. I almost feel like getting one of the woodworking clamps out. Here's my problem. I'm going to be keeping this on camera. I almost feel like putting a headband on at the moment. Ah dear. Actually, what I ought to do is find the fan. Put that under the desk. Doesn't take much tension on the wall to cause it to pull the loops out as you're working, which can be really irritating if you haven't noticed it. Because you can go through a whole block and then suddenly find that actually you've not put a single stitch into the canvas because of it. You can tell how I know that. I've done it more than once. The fact that this needle is sort of forcing itself between the threads of the canvas is what actually holds the wool in place. Sometimes if you do this really neatly on the, because this is the back, kind of look at it sometimes and go, do I really want to turn it over? Sometimes the back can look almost as interesting as the front. Yes, there's something you really dislike. This can be quite therapeutic if you were to do something like, imagine this was sort of their face or something like that. A bit like the old thing of taking somebody's photograph and pasting it to a dartboard. Only with a dartboard you've got to have some level of skill to hit it. This takes less skill to hit. Especially if you're going for a double chin or something like that. Of course, it is quite actually complete change of subject in a way, but it is actually quite possible to do things like portraits with this. The other problem you've got with that is finding the right colour wool, because you need lots of shades of the sort of same colour almost. But you could, yeah, you could end up with your portrait on a rug. And there we started. Hopefully the studio is cooling off a little bit. I'm going to take a drink. Yep, so Daisy. Tempting. I've just gone down. Hello. Gone down in the world. Yeah. Tempting to sit down. Oh yes, and I was going to just get some more wool. I know what's going to happen with this is I'm going to get almost to the end and I'm going to run out of wool. I know what's going to happen, but we'll just change the pattern slightly if that happens. So as long as I do things in like blocks or areas, then if I do run out of wool, it's relatively easy just to get something else and sort of just, you know, with a geometric pattern you can just you know, fill in a block with, I don't know, bright blue wool for no other reason than you just want a bright blue square. Or a stripe down the end of the rug, something like that. So if you're doing a proper sort of actual sort of pattern, then that becomes a little bit harder. It's quite hard as well to estimate the amount of material that you need in terms of thread, and I've tried it before with the when I've been doing it with the cottons and on the smaller things like the 2 trains that were done on stream. You can, you know how big the loops are. You can actually measure the length of wool used in a loop. The problem is you don't know how many stitches or loops you've got per inch or per unit area, because it can vary. It just depends on basically how many you put in. I can do this quite sparsely, or I can really pack the loops quite tight. And sometimes it's not really even intentional, just how loose or how tight they're becoming. The loops that you do create are half the length of the needle, because of the way it actually works. So you could, in theory, if you wanted really short loops, get something like, I don't know, some rubber bands or other sort of similar sort of collets or washers or something, and stack them in the needle here at this end. Ideally find something to hold them there, and then as you push the needle through, it would stop it going through quite as far and therefore make shorter loops. The needles that I use in the smaller stuff are actually adjustable in length, so you can make them shorter or longer, which allows you to actually make loops shorter or longer, which means you can actually create textured pieces. And that is something that I use quite a bit when I'm doing the smaller stuff, especially around the edges. It's a useful way with things like hoops to start with really tiny loops, and then very quickly just come up to full normal height loops. You create a nice rounded edge rather than it being a ragged edge, just because the loops are there, long loops that fall over. In theory, I guess I could put an embroidery loop around this, but only works until I'm trying to put the loop over where wool already is, just because the embroidery loop won't handle wool this thick. One nice thing about this is it goes relatively quickly. So you make quite a bit of progress, which is perhaps a good thing when this thing is almost a yard long. Or actually it's not, it's just over, I think it's 27 inches. Oh no. 34. It's 27 inches wide, 34 inches long, I think. So yeah. When it's almost a metre long. It's a kind of a good job. It does go fairly quickly, although this will take lots of hours to do. It's a big area to cover. Ow! Yeah, there's two things. Sorry, what I was laughing at then was at least you don't have the horrible sound that would be coming when I did that if I'd been using the microphone that's on the camera that's just in front of my nose, because of course I'm rather close to that camera. But and that's what kind of made me laugh. Is that yeah? So you get a better quality ow because I'm using the Rode microphone. But the other thing then that just occurred to me is if I do jab myself, I've got to take a check that have a look. I'm not drawing blood, because if I am, I don't want to. Where's that got some? I don't want to get the blood on the canvas. And just marks, yeah. Sorry, I just noticed some marks on the bottom of the of my microphone. I wondered where they'd come from. Look like scratches, but I don't think they are. The really painful thing with this is not so much jabbing your fingers or your hand, which is not pleasant to say the least, and it is painful. It's when you catch it, because the way I'm holding this, I'm holding it like that. When you catch, just the needle goes down just inside your nail. That's painful. You want to avoid that at almost all costs. Let's try and make sure I stay on camera. I've got the camera down quite low, effectively zoomed in, just because if I have it too far up you can't really see much about what I'm doing. Not necessarily that there's much particularly interesting, I guess, about seeing a needle going through a particular thing, so I really ought to be doing, I guess, at this point, is telling a story of some kind, shouldn't I? Bedtime story. The trouble is, at the point where you can think of, when you're not broadcasting, you can think of all sorts of things that you might talk about for absolutely ages. And of course it's a mono. What's the word I'm looking for? I keep wanting to say monochrome. That's the completely wrong word. Monologue. But when you start broadcasting, it's amazing how blank your mind goes. Although having said that, one thing that went a long time ago, and I've told this story before, or I've told parts of this story before, I did a presentation course which teaches you presentation skills, and part of that training was to do a presentation to a camera. I won't say in a locked room, but in a closed room. There's nobody else there. You sat at a desk like I am doing here, with a camera across the desk like I have here, and you give a presentation with a camera on your face like I have here. And at the time I said, and for many years afterwards, I said that's about one of the hardest things I've ever done, and it's certainly one of the hardest presentations I ever gave. And yet, of course, here I am doing it now effectively night after night after night, and it doesn't bother me. And I'm not altogether sure whether it's the same or I've just got used to streaming, and therefore it is the same, but I'm just not bothered by it anymore just because I stream, and I've been streaming now over a year of actual streaming, and that's over sort of a 2 and a bit year time frame. That of course could have something to do with it, but it's kind of amazing the difference, because I can now quite happily, of course, sit here almost for 2 hours. Well, I can sit here for 2 hours talking to myself because nobody's watching, for example, or the people who are watching just are lurking. I suppose one of the differences though between that was I did have time to prepare that presentation, and of course here, when you're streaming on Twitch, you're doing it live. I suppose I could spend an hour a day or something, working out what I might want to say and putting it together, and giving myself a storyboard of some kind, like I might do if I was presenting, but that does seem rather like too much work for what it's worth. I kind of want, I kind of want this to be off the edge of the desk so that I can just zip along it, which is probably how I'd do this if I wasn't streaming. I'd sort of put this across the width of the desk and sort of pin it down somehow, and then just work my way across from one end to the other. But if I do that, the only way I can do that is to put the camera up high and just sort of look down, and so you can see the full width of it. When all you may end up seeing then is me leaning across the desk. But because I'm streaming, and the idea is for you to see what I'm doing, it's in front of me here, and I'm having to keep it in one place. All the deprivation, you see, streamers go through for you people who are watching. What I ought to do actually is put that camera up a little bit just to make it a bit easier to stay in frame. And at least keep some of the work visible. Ow! That was close. That just scraped down my finger. I guess I could be making this more exciting, couldn't I, by sort of yelping every 2 seconds, or every so many stabs with a needle, scream out or something. But I'm not that way inclined to sort of fake jabbing myself with a needle. Because I kind of, when I'm watching some streamers, I'm not saying creative streamers, but when you're watching some of the game streamers and they get so excited or so apparently scared or jumping when something happens, I kind of wonder how much of that is just put on for the camera and how much of it is real. Because I don't know, most of the time when I'm playing a game, even where there's jump scares, I don't sort of leap out of my chair or anything like that, which you see sometimes with some streamers. But there again, I guess that's all part of the theatre, isn't it, of the stream. What does that look like? That looks like that. Which is off frame. There we go. About an hour. This bit and the bit at the other end. So it's going quite quickly, relatively speaking. Just wish I could find some way of holding it somehow. Sort of like that, I guess. Something heavy on top of there. What have I got that's heavy? Well, that's heavy. Is that heavy enough? It might be. Let's try it. Let's see if that vase is heavy enough to help. You're not supposed to hold the thread. No, that's not working very well. Ideally with this you want to sort of place the try and be quite neat actually. You can do it completely randomly, but you get the best results if you're reasonably neat about it and sort of can manage to do kind of a needle apart in both directions. That way you get the best sort of packing and a reasonably good quality on the other side. Yeah, I could do it with something like, I don't know, something like on the other end of the desk or somewhere. Things like some big hand clamps scissor type clamps to sort of clamp this down to something that isn't going to move, so I can actually sort of pull against it slightly. I mean, the vase is actually doing not a bad job, because I can sort of pull against it. Not a great deal, but sort of just enough, just to keep a little bit of tension on the canvas. Not on the wool, on the canvas. And I guess if I had a smooth vase with a smooth inside, I could drop the wool in it. So I don't think anybody's ever done this on Twitch before, so I am doing something unique. Of course that means nobody's going to watch because it's unique. Seems to be the thing with creative. I was thinking today, what are the things I ought to do, not nothing to do with streaming, but I've got quite a few old vinyl records, albums and singles, that I really ought to do, because I play most of the music these days digitally, streaming it from one of the servers, and I was just thinking today, it would be good, even though vinyl is coming back, people are sort of going out and actively buying vinyl records, because they sound better, which is an interesting concept, because the people who produce the vinyl masters do their best to remove the sound of vinyl from the production, so they do all sorts of tricks, because vinyl isn't a very good reproducer of sound, and so they do all sorts of tricks to make the sound, or to sort of make the sound weird, so that when you play it on the record player it comes out normal. And so from a sound engineer's point of view, things like the CD were absolutely fantastic, because they didn't have to play all the sorts of weird games, if you like, that they had to do to get vinyl to work and come out sounding like they wanted it to sound, because to apply all sorts of equalizations, because as I say, vinyl doesn't reproduce certain sounds very well, like bass for example doesn't come out very well. So they have to do things like artificially boost it, because by the time it's been made quieter by the vinyl, it comes out at the level they wanted it. And yet people these days are They want the authentic vinyl sound. You can almost see the sort of sound engineers pulling their hair out, having spent so many years, if you like, developing their techniques for stopping the vinyl sound. Yeah. So things like Spotify and stuff like that. Fantastic services in a way, but you never own the music. Not that you actually own the music as such, but you own the media that it's on, and you therefore can play it anytime you want. But of course with things like Spotify or similar, if you stop paying your subscription, that's it, all your music's gone. I know there's free ones ad supported type things, but effectively all your music's gone. If that service closes down, doesn't matter what you've paid, and of course there's no free one, then if they're closed down, you've got to go somewhere else, so to speak. I don't know, I don't play music, well I suppose some people must do. I don't play music that much to make it worthwhile a subscription to one of these services. I'm guessing you kind of like really need to be playing music every single day for it to be kind of worth it. Although it does give you the chance to try lots of different music that you perhaps wouldn't otherwise, just because you wouldn't necessarily go out and buy a CD or anything like that. Leazar, good evening. You know what, it took me ages to work out the very same thing, because all it is a needle. Okay, it is just a metal and plastic needle, and the wool goes down the centre and comes out a hole on the side. But that hole on the side is actually critical to the way it works. So what happens is, if you imagine at the moment that's solid, okay, that's not going anywhere, it's not strictly true, but it's... So if I push this needle through this cloth, it draws the wool out like that until I hit the cloth at the top of the needle here. And then I pull it back. It creates a loop, and as I pull this needle out, the material closes around the end of the needle, holding the thread in place, and then I do it again like that, and it's kind of hard to simulate it, but you just keep repeating that, and it then creates a loop. It took me ages to work that out, even though I'm sort of stood here watching it, because then that's what you get on the other side. All of these loops, which afterwards you can cut them if you want, but don't usually. And this is how they make rugs. It's not quite how they make carpets, or some carpets. Some are made in this way as well. Only with rugs and carpets they don't use one needle, they use hundreds across the width, and they're doing thousands of strokes per second or per minute. But it's quite clever technique. It's quite clever, really. It relies on, as I say, the thread coming out the side of the needle, because it needs that to trap the thread, and it also relies on the material. You can't use just anything. the material has kind of got to be. What's happening is when I'm pushing this needle through, it's not cutting. What it's doing is it's forcing its way between the threads. So it's, if you like, there's little tiny holes in the canvas. It's kind of opening up the holes to put the needle through, so that when you pull the needle out, it tends to close them up again, which helps traps the wool. Some material, if you tried doing this, you'd actually start cutting the threads of the material, and it just falls apart into great big holes. I know that because I tried it once a long time ago, but when I went away for the week and I was going to take some of this stuff with me. In fact, I did take some of this stuff with me, but I forgot the material. So I went out to a local shop and bought something that looked like it, and it wasn't. And all I ended up doing was just sort of making a great big hole in it. Yeah, it's sort of friction, really. And of course, you know, once actually, yeah. I mean, if I was to hold this or get it caught, or this wool here gets too tight going in there, it does pull out. And that happens frequently enough. It's something you have to watch. But it does, you know, if it gets too tight, like for example, there's a ball of wool just off there. Unless I actually pull some off loose like this, it's too tight, there's too much friction. And it does indeed pull the thread, the wool back out of the hole, and you end up with just a hole and no thread in it, which can be really irritating if you don't see it. Or sometimes what happens is it's just tight enough to pull most of the wool out, leaving just a tiny loop on the other side, which is just as irritating. Unless you're actually intending to leave a tiny loop. So this needle doesn't, but the needles that I use for the smaller ones, smaller pictures, is actually adjustable length, so you can actually get long loops and short loops, and so you can actually sculpt the surface as well. By the way, Laser, if you're wearing headphones, fair warning, occasionally I jab myself with this needle. And whilst it's not hypodermic sharp, it's not blunt. And I do have sound level limiters on the microphone, but it's still loud. Now that thread's got tight, so unless I pull some off, I'll end up wasting my time. Normal sewing machine sort of locks a second thread underneath it. So it puts a loop down, then loops a second thread through the loop, and that actually locks it. So a sewing machine is using two threads. This is kind of like this is essentially very much like the needle that does go up and down on a sewing machine. It's creating the loops underneath. There just isn't another one which is locking that loop into place. Yeah, I mean, I'm here. Okay, I worked this out quite some time ago, but it's kind of like I'm here, I'm doing it, and I'm studying it. I'm kind of looking on both sides and watching what happens, you know. And I spent ages trying to work out exactly how it was doing it. So it's kind of not surprising. It was kind of difficult for you to see it from on the camera. But anyway, how are you, Laser? getting a bit loose here, so I'm going to be a bit careful. Setting things up a bit. I'm leaving a little bit too much gap. I can feel the other side is a little bit, sort of, as I'm working with this, I can feel the other side's a little bit sort of not as packed as it should be, or not as packed as I like it to be anyway. There's no should with this, it's however you want to do it. That nearly got me. There are times when you're doing this when you kind of do feel like you're a bit of a sewing machine. You do select. Oh, okay. I thought what you were going to say then is because everybody just sort of says fine, even if they don't really mean it. You know, they're just. Yeah. When anybody asks you how you're doing, usually they're not actually expecting you to answer the question. They're expecting you just to go, "Oh, I'm fine," you know, "Oh, you know, not." "Oh, I'm really ill and I feel sick and I've been really," you know, they're not really expecting you to say that sort of thing. But Superman does good. Yeah, interesting. The sort of thing you get when you go in a shop, you know, and they sort of go, you know, you walk up to the till, it's, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And they're not really wanting you to answer. And if you do half the time, they don't know what to say in return. So you can have fun trolling shop assistants. Yeah. Actually, I kind of it is something I kind of say a lot. Is I'm all right. You know, there's no, as you said, no good, no bad about it. I do sometimes sort of have the I've not done it yet, but I do sometimes have the urge when somebody sort of asks me, how are you, to sort of say something like, "Oh, my brother died yesterday, my dog got run over today, the pet rabbit just dropped dead," and go through about 8 things like that and see what they say. Never yet had the sort of actually done it, and it kind of feels a bit like lying, which is something I don't do. So That's kind of one reason, I guess, why I don't. But one of a slight deviation on subject, but one of the things is I'm a Yorkshireman. One of the things that they sort of, one of the myths, if you like, of Yorkshiremen is that if a Yorkshireman says something's all right, that's about the highest praise you can get, because they never say anything more than that, never say anything's better than that. So if it's all right, it's great. And I was doing that, but you couldn't see me. But if you know, because we just you know, all right's the highest praise. It will get better. Yeah, right. You could have real fun, couldn't you? Because you could say, that's what somebody said last week and it got worse. I don't know. It is interesting, isn't it? How I mean, it is that, because, well, I guess you can tell me whether it is the same sort of convention in other languages. I mean, it certainly is in English, but yeah, because you know, it's that fake concern. It's kind of a fake concern, isn't it? Because you know, the people who are asking out usually are not actually that interested. It is just like a social lubricant in a way. Just there to sort of ease the interaction. It's a bit like talking, I guess they always say about sort of the English, but talking about the weather, you know, it's just something. Yeah, that's a good one. One of the things I sometimes do, especially if I answering the phone at work, because usually I can see who it is that's ringing, and especially if you know that why they're ringing you, and you just want to throw them off a bit. So one of the things that I'll do is, if they ring in the morning, and I'll go, hello, it's Zeraganat, good afternoon. And at which point, somebody who's about to launch into something goes, hang on a minute, it's not the afternoon, what time is it? And it throws them completely off. It's in the afternoon, I'll say, good morning. And it has the same effect of momentarily just interrupting them, interrupting their thought pattern as they desperately look at the clock to verify what the time is. And usually if they're sort of annoyed, it has the effect of really calming them down really quickly. And so it's quite an interesting trick. Same thing, yeah. Oh, it works, Leah, it certainly works. I mean, it does help if you know what it is, but you know, and of course, if anybody starts going on about, you know, whatever, you just go, I just made a mistake, you know, and that makes them feel worse about it, or you know, so it's kind of. And a few of the people that I do talk to have now got used to that, and don't worry about it too much, and or just go, "You're doing that again, aren't you, Tommy?" Mind you, one of the people I talk to quite regularly is in India, and that's always interesting because when it's morning over here, it is afternoon over there, and when it's afternoon here in the UK, it's evening there, and that's always a one because when they'll come on and say good morning because it's morning UK, and I'll go on and say good afternoon because it's afternoon in India. And they'll then go, "Oh, good afternoon." It confuses them. Of course, layers at that point. What you say, Wolfie? What you could have done is say, "No, I didn't. Why would I say birthday? It's New Year," which thoroughly confuses them even more. No, layers are. He wasn't doing it on purpose. He was being a cheapskate. He just bought a job lot of congratulations cards and didn't want to buy any more. It's actually that sort of. For some reason, I want to say non sequitur, but I don't know if it's the right word. But that sort of thing where, it's in the morning and you go good afternoon to somebody, which sort of completely interrupts their sort of brain stream, is actually a technique that hypnotists use to hypnotise people, because it literally is the equivalent of a computer interrupt. It stops everything dead and starts up again, and in that moment when your thought process just stops is when a hypnotist can actually insert a command to hypnotise you, if you like, to cause you to sleep or whatever. I've forgotten what the terminology is now, but that is one of the techniques that they use is just to cause that interrupt. It's sort of some of the things I'm trying to remember now, but some of the hypnotism things are kind of nonsensical if they're going through a script, and it's a completely nonsensical script in a way, but your brain goes, hang on a minute. And at that point, just after that is a part of the script that they'll go sort of go deeper into. They cause this interrupt and then say you will go deeper into sleep, to give you an example. And your brain goes, oh, and it sort of bypasses your conscious bit of your brain, and you whether that psychology is actually true or not, I don't know, but it kind of works. Okay, Lisa. So that, at the moment, now looks kind of like this. The odd loop is a little bit ragged, but there's definitely a sort of a technique to this, and finding the right sort of rhythm, and here, like finding something to hold the cloth, the canvas. But once you get it, it's you can get quite a nice smooth effect on the other side, and it's rather nice. And that kind of reminds me, I ought to go back. I have the home study hypnotism course, which I ought to do some more on, or do some more reading on. I have hypnotised somebody once, but only just. And you can't actually hypnotise anybody to do anything they don't want to do, despite what they show you on films. Which means that these stage hypnotists that show people doing things like, you know, going around the stage clucking like a chicken, the people are doing it because they want to. Or rather, they are doing it because they didn't not want to. If that's a double negative, but you know, you can't make them want to do it. So they are quite comfortable, if you like, with doing it. Of course, the hypnotist does tend to pick people that he knows is going to be comfortable with doing these things. Because it'd be no good if he hypnotised somebody and they wouldn't do any of them. Actually, somebody who doesn't want to do something under hypnosis just pops straight out of it. The nearest you can get with people is to somehow get them to fool themselves. Like tell them, you know, somebody who likes apples, you can sometimes persuade them, for example, that the onion that they're holding looks like an apple, and then tastes like an apple, and they'll eat it. About eSport? Okay, don't know the. Is that a person, or is that some sort of acronym technique? I don't know. $1 million events. Well, I guess, well, I don't know. I mean, esports are getting quite popular, obviously amongst only certain people. I don't know whether they're up to $1 billion events yet, but these people are going. Why is a girl going, these people are stupid? And is it a girl or a girl? Yes, I just wondered if that was a girl, like a friend, you know, asking for a friend. Oh, not E. No, you know, it's like I'm just asking for a friend. It's you know, it's, just wondering if the a girl was the similar sort of thing. Hello, E girl. Yeah, esports, E girl. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I mean, some esports events do tend to have sort of hundreds of thousands of people watching, so. You're finally done with work. You should probably not spend your sleep time on game. Nah, it's probably it kind of only works for a while, does that, Layazar, and then you get to the point where you know you're falling asleep. And you know what kind of annoys me? It's Saturday, it's a Friday, I think it was. Friday afternoon, about 4 o'clock. I was sat in the chair just here to the side of me, and I could not stay awake for the life of me. I was just nodding off. I can't remember what I was doing, but I could not stay awake. And I'm thinking, why can't I do this when I go to bed? Why can I not, you know, go to sleep, if you like, from the point of view of I cannot stay awake, and yet when you go to bed, it's kind of, I could really do with going to sleep right now, you know, and it's, you know, early on in the day you just couldn't do anything else but go to sleep. And there again, you see, I'm getting old, so maybe that's got something to do with it. You can spell. It's always like that, isn't it? I mean, some of the games as well, you know, I'm just going to, and you know, an hour later, then you still, oh, I'll just. Sorry, Wolfie, I don't understand the screenshot. Only you're never. Oh, sorry, no, I can't follow that. I've got my finger just literally under here. This needle slides down the side of my finger every time I do this, and I'm kind of very slightly nervous. Now, one thing about this pattern that I'm doing is because I'm doing this in a stripe down here like this, when I come to do the next stripe over, it's going to look like I've done blocks. So because of the variegated, as it's called, the variegated wool. So it'll look like, you know, because next to this may be a cream or a purple or whatever band, just because of that's when the where the wool goes. So when you're doing something like this, I'm doing geometric design. Effectively, on here there's some sort of triangles, but the blocks will kind of not detract from that. But in design terms, if you didn't want to have to put this colour in a block next to this, you didn't want it to look blocky, you would literally have to go all the way down one length and back, or all the way at one side and back, and keep going the full length rather than just a short length like this, in order not to form these blocks. So just something. Oh, okay. Oh, right, fair enough. Then it makes sense. Mind you, on Twitter tonight, I was trying to get Twitter to show, when I tweeted out, I always put the URL on for the stream, but and Twitter always adds a card. Tonight I could not get it to show the current stream title. It kept giving me the one from yesterday, which is really annoying. Oh, it is, isn't it? Thank you for letting me know, Wolfie. Yeah, I will be doing the same. I think I will just do another length of this just to use up this loose thing. But yeah, we are that time. It's got there rather quickly. I like doing this sort of stuff, but so I may carry on a little bit later on tonight. But I won't be streaming that. Plus I know that this thing, although what we've taken a couple of hours to do this length, this rug will actually take quite a few hours to complete. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. Generally speaking, I leave the needle in. That way it doesn't pull threads out. But yeah, that's okay. Well, that and a small piece at the other end, about 1 inch. So we've done about half the width of the rug in 2 hours. So it's going to take a fair length of time. Is this so? We'll be, I don't know. We'll do it for a few streams. We'll see how I feel and whether I get cramp in my hand. I'm going to have to see if I can find a different way of holding this, but I'll sort that out some other point. It can be wolf laser. It depends on how tightly you pack them. This one, if you pack the loops really close to each other, it gets a lot firmer. So the edges, for example, here are quite soft and fluffy because they've not got another row packing them. But it's so they can get quite hard and quite stiff if you pack them close enough together. So it's sort of, you want that. You don't want them so loose that you can sort of see the material between them. But it can be. It also depends on the wool or the material that the wool that you're using. And this is quite a soft wool. You can get sort of ones which are harder than that. I mean, this really isn't ideal. I mean, it is a rug. Technically, it's a rug, or it will be when it's finished. But if you wanted to use it as really as a rug, I mean, a lot of these are used like wall hangings more than actual rugs. But if you actually wanted to use it as a rug, you'd probably want to pick a slightly harder wearing material than this. I don't know it would last that long as an actual rug that you walked on, unless you only ever did it, in your bare feet or something. But yeah, they can be nice and nice things to just sort of bring your fingers over. Like these. Of course, this is same technique but done with smaller needles and smaller thread. But yeah, they are quite nice to just run your hands over. This one's packed quite tightly. You get slightly better definition when you pack it tightly. But right, well, I'm going to say good night, and we'll carry on tomorrow night with some more of this. Maybe get all the way across the canvas, especially as I'm sort of get back into the technique of using it. So if anybody who's watching wants to see this tomorrow night, it will be from 7 PM UK time, that's GMT at the moment, subject to me having managed to complete my evening meal by then. If not, I'll be starting a little bit later, but it'll be soon after 7 PM as I can. Of course, if you want to see some of the other things that we've done, the VODs are available here on Twitch, or earlier ones are on YouTube, since we were talking about that earlier. Savaganart on YouTube, youtube.com/Savaganart. Hope I'll see you on the next stream then. Bye for now.